Internet trolls. What's your worst troll that made you feel terrible afterwards? I'm 31 and I know this isn't the internet troll, but I wanted to get this off my chest. When I was like 15, I called a classmate and said I kidnapped your mother. Just being idiot teenagers who pranked over telephone and nothing else. He kept saying, "Do you know who this is?" I said yes. He asked who. I said his name. He said what the frick? So I just hung up. My friend asked me if that was so. I said yeah, why? He said his mother died a year ago. I felt so bad. I would see him in school and he would always still talk to me. Saw him a couple times after HS and we would have a few drinks. A year after that he got into drugs and committed suicide. Never could get over his mom. I feel so horrible. I wish I could have said I was sorry, but I always thought he wouldn't believe me that I didn't know. Frick. So many RuneScape scams. My favorite one was me, my brother, and friend making new accounts, training to about level 7, finding everyone in the PK world our level and recruiting them. Had like 30 people in our clan. Go into world and pick out people one by one and command the rest of the people to kill them. So much betrayal. In high school I went on the computer in my science class, opened Word, typed the word poop, and then printed 100 copies or so. The teacher told me I was very immature and I felt a little bad. Then for the next week every handout we got in class had the word poop printed on the back and I stopped feeling bad, because that was hilarious. Was hanging out in a chat room late one night when some random chick started going crazy saying someone had broken into her apartment and was threatening to harm her, etc. She said she had locked herself in her room and was chatting with us instead of calling police because the guy threatened to kick in the door if she did. After a couple minutes of such things it became increasingly obvious that she was just trolling the room. So I asked her to send me a quick email so I could help. Once the email arrived I pulled up the full email headers, found the originating IP address and used a reverse lookup to get the city of her ISP. Luckily it was a small town and her email used her last name and there was only one such name in the white pages for her area. So I pulled up her address on Google Maps and replied with a pic of her house and offered to call cops for her to the address as well as call her myself. Listed her number if she needed any additional support. She immediately stopped the trolling online and left the room. Never got a reply to the email either. Felt kinda bad for likely scaring the crap out of some kid. Plot twist. She really was in trouble. Tried to respond to you but the man got to her first. In the late 1990s I used to program in Visual Basic. There was a kid in my grade who was always harassing me on AOL to teach him how to program. But he never seemed interested in reading any of the links I sent him to actually learn to program. All he cared about was doing very specific things, and would beg me to send him source code which he would proceed to copy and paste, and then take credit for. I eventually got sick of this, so I embed lines in my source code which would delete AOL from his computer, but only 1 out of every 10 times. I made fun of Stuart Scott and his googly eye on Twitter. He responded and we exchanged a bit. Later he died of cancer and I bawled my eyes out watching all the specials on ESPN. I really regret that one. That one makes me cringe. My stepbrother told a small child on Xbox Live that Santa wasn't real. Turns out he wasn't aware of that. That was pretty funny. Santa gives him Xbox. Xbox reveals that Santa isn't real. I don't know if this counts as trolling, but whatever. I'll tell it anyway. When I was maybe 9 or 10 I was obsessed with Neopets. I spent a lot of time on there. It was my #1 interest, and all I cared about was getting a certain paintbrush or avatar or whatever else. This was all very unfortunate, though, because when it came to actually making Neopoints I was not very good at all. So, obviously, I decided to become a scammer, or, really, a freaking virtual terrorist. That I was very good at. I had a whole system. I would make a new account, wait until I was allowed to start posting to forums with it, and then I would make a post telling everyone about this amazing thing. Did you know if you typed your password backwards, it would still be censored? See, look, awesome. Try it out. They would do it and I would very quickly use their password to get into their account. Change their password and the email their account was associated with to stall any attempt they made to get back in, and begin to put any item I wanted in a trade, and then with yet another account I would accept the trade and get their items. I would then send those items to my main account. In one of my fake accounts I would put a useless item up for sale for however many near points they had and buy it from their account, thus stealing their money, and then I would repeat the process to get the points to my main. Then, when I was done and I had bled their account dry, I would find an inappropriate picture that I knew their account would be frozen for uploading, generally an image filled with curse words, and I'd upload it as a repeating background on their profile. I'd make a post in the forums asking people to rate my profile, thus ensuring that they'd see the image, be offended, and report it, and this person's account would be frozen and I'd walk away back to my main and enjoy my bounty. In the time I did this I managed to swindle away millions and millions of near points and some incredibly rare items from more people than I could say. I never had my main account frozen. I had zero remorse. It's only as an adult that I look back and cringe and feel horrible about what I'd done and how many kids I undoubtedly hurt. I was a horrible child and nothing good came out of it except that now I try to be a better adult. For whatever that is worth. I'll Hunter 2 your Hunter 2 I'm Hunter 2, you little Hunter 2. Let me take you back to the summer of 1997. School had just started and there was a kid in our 3rd grade class we'll call Ryan, and Ryan came from a single mom home and were very poor, and Ryan had a lot of issues, and although he was the class punching bag, not literally, he never actually did anything to deserve it. He was just the kid everyone picked on just because. This was the summer the Packers won the Super Bowl and some of the other kids stole his Packers cap and stomped it into the mud. The other kids cheered on the girl, which made the blow so much worse at that age, and Ryan had his most favorite possession ruined. Ryan who never hurt anybody. Ryan who had so little in the world, and then this cruel childish act of juvenile classism took away his prized hat. I just looked on and watched and am tortured by it still. He walked home red-faced and sobbing and just wanted so desperately to fit in. Before stomping it into the mud though, that girl put his hat on her head. What she didn't know was Ryan was riddled with lice. She came to school Monday with a terrible wig that fell off at recess to reveal her freshly shaved head, and then she knew how it felt to be laughed at. Her real name was Crystal, and frick her. Ryan, wherever you are and if you see this, I'm sorry I didn't fight for you. You were a good kid and deserve better than that. Back in the day I used to frequent a certain 4chan forum. This was in the days of the Battletoads mass phone calls. Basically, someone would choose a random Gamestop and then everyone would call in, and in the most creative manner ask if they had Battletoads. Well, we had been phoning this store for hours, so we decided to move on to another store down the road. I think it was a Futura shop or something. This continued to escalate until I had a great idea. I phoned the original Gamestop and in a hushed voice, told them I was a Futura shop employee and that my fellow butthole co-workers were the ones calling and asking for Battletoads. I told them that I didn't approve of this and thought it was totally childish, but my manager was involved and I didn't want to get fired. I think phoned Futura shop and gave them the same story about Gamestop. Someone on 4chan drove by the stores about an hour later and police were at both stores. I'm into watch collecting. There was a post on CL for this vintage piece that was identical to what my dad wore when I was a kid and I really wanted it. It was priced super low and it was in all original condition. I call the seller right away and he tells me some guy just bought it. The next day I see the same watch advertised for 4x the price from the guy who bought it. Knowing what he paid, I texted him to try to work out a quick easy deal. We agree on a fair number and plan to meet the next day. I make arrangements to leave work early. I head to the bank to get $3k cash and drive the 45 minutes to meet him. When I'm 10 minutes out he sends me a text and says he can't sell it for the agreed upon price. Asks if I can go up another $500. Frick number. I express how bummed I am. How much of an inconvenience this all is. I remind him that we'd agreed on a price already. He won't budge. When I got home I searched his number in Craigslist and there are at least a dozen other postings for high-end watches. A week later I create a fake Gmail address and Google Voice number from a town in another area code. I send him a few emails and text messages expressing interest in a couple of the other watches he has for sale. I tell him I'm really busy and that I'd prefer a face-to-face transaction. I ask him if he'd be willing to drive the 3 hours to meet me. He pushes back a little and I remind him that I'll be paying him a little over $10k in cash for 2 pieces. Eventually, he agrees. The next day he texts me to tell me he is on his way. I play along. When he's an hour or so out, I text him and tell him I'm stuck at work but that I shouldn't be any more than 30 minutes late. He's cool, says not to worry. An hour or so after we are supposed to meet, I text him and tell him I'm still stuck. He's a little frustrated. I tell him to go grab lunch and to keep his receipt. I offer to reimburse him for the inconvenience. 2 hours later, he asks me where I am. I string him along even more. Finally, it's 6 o'clock at night and he's been waiting 4 hours. And that doesn't include the 3-hour drive he made. He gets impatient, mouths off. I tell him if he's going to be a dong about it then the deal is off. He makes some threats, says he's going to find me and burn my house down and some other crap. I egg him on. Eventually he goes silent. TL. Dr. Guy fricks me over so I frick him over 10x harder. Back in the dorms my first year of college, I downloaded an extension called Nkij onto my friend's laptop while he was in the bathroom. This extension changes every single picture in Google Chrome to a random picture of Nicolas Cage. So he's taking a long time in the bathroom so I go into the extension files and edit the code. Pretty easy actually. I just replaced a few lines and lo and behold, every picture now changes to a naked black guy. So I just sit back and laugh with his roommates when he comes back from the bathroom and goes to Facebook only to see the same naked black guy anywhere you would expect to see a picture. Whoa, that's genius. I, too, used to be a beatard. I used to make prank calls with my friends. The usual put 2 Chinese takeouts together. Or call Best Buy and ask for a chocolate chip microchip high school stuff. We'd also call McDonald's and tell them their credit card for their pizza order didn't go through. But one day, we were feeling really stupid. We looked up Updoot ranches in California, and we called one looking to buy based on specifications of the stallion's dong. Of course, we were pornographers looking for a horse for a bestiality flick. I went on for a solid 5 minutes about veneniness girth ratio, discolorations, average ejaculation volume, lasting time, things like that. After about 3 minutes, the woman on the other side of the line was obviously upset. Then, I started to go into the different P-stars available to us, so that we can most closely fit tightness to girth. After a minute of that, and us agreeing on Lisa Ann, she hung up on me. I called back saying that we can change the actress if it upset her, but her husband answered. He yelled at us, dared us to call back, and mentioned how upset and embarrassed we made his wife. I was pretty sure I could hear her crying in the background. A few friends and I raided a steamer midstream. Pink Sparkles. She had a donation bot that would read off every donation message in the voice of Google Translate's bot. My friends and I made sure to pray off this. We copy pasted the word pancake hundreds of times. The donation bot read the word pancake, full volume for like 10 minutes. It got to the point where she started, fake, crying. I guess this doesn't answer your question, because I don't feel bad. People saying I got trolled because I donated to her money. I did not. There's a small window of time to revoke the donation while still getting the message played. At the pinnacle of online gaming in Halo 2, cheats, super jump, and stand-buying people were becoming huge. People didn't know a lot about it and Bungie hadn't fixed any of it yet, but people were desperate to win and not lose their levels so they would do anything for a win. So in the pre-game lobby I told them all I'm a modder and I have this cheat that will get us all beneath the map and then we can just pick everyone off easily from below. Told them for it to work we all have to meet at X location, but I need to go get the essential weapons power-ups vehicle etc. first. So the entire team would get in a huddle behind the base while I went and retrieved the rocket launcher. As I returned to the group I told them all to look at the ground and press AXB whatever. Then I would shoot the whole team with my rocket launcher and we would start out -7 points. Usually I got booted, but sometimes before they kicked me I could convince them all that it didn't work, or I hit the wrong button code, whatever. Then I would do it a second time. Then I always got booted. Hahaha, either multiple people did this, or I was one of the chumps who did this too. When I was 14 or 15 I had just learned what batch files were. For those that don't know, it's like a text file that tells your command prompt what to do. I would make a batch file that would delete several important files requiring formatting of Windows, and I would disable the confirmation message. Then I would set the computer to shut down in 30 seconds and display a message like haha computers fricked you got PWN'd. So I would go into AOL chat rooms and pretend to be a girl. People would DM me asking me for pics. I sent the batch file which would show up as a super sketchy link lol. I would tell them it's a slideshow and just click it p. The dumber ones would. And they would type angry things in all caps at me and go offline 30 seconds later. So much laughter. Haha computers fricked you got PWN'd. It's so juvenile that it's hilarious. A guy was going on about how he regularly blocked the road for several minutes while parallel parking and didn't care that people would beep ETC to get him out the way. I made a quip that if he was that desperate to show how powerful he was, his wife must treat him really badly. Someone else posted that his wife had left him 6 months before, taken the kids, all the cash etc. More careful now. Well, you weren't wrong. Back in beta for Arma 3 I played on the life servers a lot. The SEAL Team Sloth server was very popular and so I played there the most. Eventually I ended up joining the police force and becoming more well known to those who ran the force and moved up in rank relatively quickly. It just so happened that one day I was playing on happened to be 9/11. The admin of the server decided to set up a memorial. He spent a few hours making this elaborate memorial to 9/11 on this life server. He was bitching about how much time he spent on it and how people kept coming over to sneak a peek. Like most admins, he was just kind of a dong. Eventually he got almost everyone on the server to the memorial for a short service. 50 people showed up including all of the police force. Something came over me and I knew exactly what I had to do. I went to the cop store in Cop Base that was completely empty and spent all my money I had saved on a helicopter. I flew the heli out and as soon as the service started and everyone was lined up perfectly for a photo I came diving in my heli shouting Allah Akbar over side chat. I flew into the memorial of various vehicles and objects that everyone was saluting near for the photo. The initial explosion triggered everything in the memorial to blow up, killing all the players. Everyone started raging and I was banned immediately. It was incredibly satisfying. I'd do it again. Jesus Christ, that's amazing. I was dealing with this smarmy internet tough guy about a decade ago. He was a former Marine. I know, there's no such thing as former Marines, who had grown to become a fat butt living on his youthful glory. He'd pick arguments and then throw around deeply personal insults and threats the second he started to lose the argument. This was a small message board with a close-knit community, so we knew a lot of personal details about each other. His real personality was basically that of an internet troll. He and I got into it after I criticized the New England Patriots. Or rather, I criticized his football team and he responded by acting like I'd just teabagged his grandma in front of him. He started insulting me. No big deal. Then he started insulting my child, a newborn baby. This shouldn't have been a big deal, but this guy was a real prick and I am and always will be a hothead. I started investigating him online and saw that he was a massive bully offline too. He was a big fan of some fantasy books and went to conventions a lot and had developed a reputation among the nerds for being a legitimately mean bully in person. So much so that there were blogs entries dedicated to talking about their experiences with him. So I decided to teach him a lesson. I doxed him, created multiple accounts and started sending him screenshots of his house on MapQuest, or whatever we used back in 2005. Some accounts merely said, "Nice house," others said, "See you soon," others were meant to be more creepy like, "I see you decided to wear the tighty whities today and you have a pretty wife. He free year I raked out." Made this long ranting post that included pictures of him cuddling with his guns, talked about how he now slept with his guns, went to the cops, etc. He claimed to know it was me, but had no proof, as I had created those accounts from a guest account on a CPU at the local county library. There was no way to trace me. I also signed him up for a bunch of gay magazines and a few months after this he posted again on our board about how his wife was leaving him. My trolling made him start hitting the gym again, and at the gym he made a friend who introduced him to steroids, and his roid rages combined with the monthly arrival of gay mags was too much for his wife. I guess I should have read the title of this better, because while I went too far, this guy was such a piece of crap that I honestly didn't and still don't feel bad about it. Created those accounts from a guest account on a CPU. Please don't do that. Touching processors in any way is a bad idea. Anti-troll wankers in online and games, life, etc. When they start talking crap and call me gay or whatever, I just own it and start talking about how I wanna do gay things with them, and I just keep it up until they shut up and walk away, log off. It works every single time. The kind of person that is out there trolling cannot handle some guy telling them he wants to blow them and how hot they are and etc etc. This works for prank callers, buttholes, etc. It always works. Seems like the kind of people to be a craphead to someone can't handle gay passes at them, especially when other people are in earshot. I spent over $100 in long distance charges calling into a Christian radio show in New York. I live in Western Canada. The host would be talking and the callers can be heard over them. I proceeded to play the Fresh Prince Bel-Air theme and also rickrolled everyone. I regret nothing. Felt kind of bad, because here are these people trying to preach the good word, and instead they got a bunch of basement lurkers playing YOOOOOO. This is a story all about how. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.